I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thank you for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring luminaries in the career, leadership, financial, entrepreneurial, and wellness fields. I know you spend a significant portion of your life at work, so I'm on a mission to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love your life. Today I'm speaking with Nancy Kramer, founder and chair of Resource. She's also the founder of Free the Tampons Foundation. Good to hear from you, Nancy. Thank you for being with us.
I am a first-generation college graduate in our family and went into media sales as my first position out of school. I was a journalism major, actually. And in the course of being in media sales, I ended up meeting people that were reps for Apple Computer, and I ended up starting a business with them way back in 1981. And Apple ended up giving us seed money to start our business to help market Apple products on the regional level way back in 1981 when they were virtually a startup organization. And so it's kind of funny because at the time, I actually had the opportunity to be one of the first salespeople for MTV before MTV went on the air. And that was The Road Not Taken. And it was so funny because I thought that it was the whole idea of watching music on TV was the dumbest idea I'd ever heard of. And so I was quite sure that MTV was going to be a massive failure. So, but that was the road not taken for me. So I started this business and with seed funding from Apple and have continued on our path for the last 33 years. So our company is the largest digital marketing advertising business in the country. We're independent. We're not owned by one of the holding companies. And our first 15 years of our business, our clients were all technology companies. And for the first several years, Apple was our only client. Yeah. And then as the internet became its own channel and digital became so prominent, we've expanded our wings and we are now 400 associates strong across 4 offices, Chicago, Cincinnati, Columbus, and San Francisco. And we work with a variety of Fortune 500 companies. And so it's been just an incredible ride from 1981 to 2014. It's hard to believe.
That's exciting. So Nancy, you were named one of the 100 most influential women in advertising. Was that really a turning point for you? Did you realize how successful this venture had been? Tell me about that.
Well, it was so funny to see. I kind of got lumped into a group of women that are more technology oriented, like Melissa Mayer and Sheryl Sandberg and whatnot, and which was just an incredible honor. And honestly, I don't think of myself that way. I just think of myself as an entrepreneur that's responsible for making sure that a lot of people here have the jobs that they, have that we're creating the jobs for them and bringing in the revenue. I think that I just never really stop and think, oh, wow, I've really made it now. I guess I'm always focused on how to move forward, how to be better. And so I don't really think about it in that context, to tell you the truth.
Well, and I know one of your mantras, one of your quotes is anything is possible. So is there a story behind that? Was there a struggle or a hurdle, or are you just that incredible cup half full kind of woman?
Well, I think that, I was born and raised in Columbus. And as I said, first generation college, woman graduated from college in our family. And I've been financially independent since I was 16. My family was not able to pay for me to go to college. And so I was able to work as a cashier at Kroger to support myself and put myself through college. And I just think about the environment that I was raised in, just a very modest upbringing, and to be able to do what we've been able to do, I think is to me proof that anything is possible. But I think that I first realized that when I was a little kid. I always found the heat a problem, the humidity. It's very humid here in Ohio in the summer. Right. And so we didn't have air conditioning in our home. And so I would find myself spending a tremendous amount of time in the summer at the library. And I'd lay on the linoleum floor in the library up the street from our house, staying cool. And I found myself really gravitating toward books about large animals and about Africa. And I'm not sure if it was because I was a lion in a previous life or if Africa was the farthest place in the planet that I could think of away
Right.
from
From
Columbus.
Columbus, right?
Yeah, and so I used to daydream about that, about going to Africa, and it became almost an obsession. And when I went to school at Ohio State and I needed a foreign language requirement for my journalism major, I ended up taking 4 quarters of Swahili
Oh, that's great.
because I really thought that I was bound to determine that I was going to go visit Africa. And so when I graduated from school at Ohio State, I set off on a journey by myself, and this was in 1977. So it wasn't really an acceptable practice for young women to set
Right.
off by
Right.
themselves in 1977 to a country like that. And so it was really a journey of a lifetime. And to just think about where I came from and that I dreamed about doing this and that I actually acted upon it, and I had this just deep, deep desire to realize this dream. That to me has been a mantra, and it's a constant proof to me that anything is possible. And as I'm sitting here in my conference room, I am surrounded by photographs that I actually took on that trip
That's
because
great.
I look at them and I think, wow, that I really did that. I'm looking at a picture of a monkey. I'm looking at a picture of lions feeding off of a fresh kill. I'm looking at pictures of zebras. And it's a constant reminder to me that, here was this little girl in Columbus, Ohio, that dreamed about going to Africa one day and actually, made up her mind and made it happen. And so I used that as a mantra for myself. And then fast forward to what we're doing today, there's a lot of things about our business that make absolutely no sense. The fact that we're headquartered in Columbus, we're not really in the heart of Silicon Valley, and we're not in the heart of New York City. And many people would think that it would be impossible to build the kind of business that we've built, not being in either one of those environments, at least from the get-go. And so, again, I think that I'm a person who, when somebody tells me you can't do it, that's when I'm really kind of turn on my
Right.
juices. I'm energized to
Game
show that
on. Yeah.
I can. Exactly.
Well, you know what I love about that, Nancy? I'm in the Midwest too. I'm in Indiana.
Sure.
We're neighboring states, right? And I think tremendous things happen in the Midwest. It's a wonderful brain trust, and I'm with you. We've got to prove to the rest of the world that great things happen here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they're one of the things that I think the people at Apple always really valued of working with us over nearly 2 decades was that we were so grounded
Yeah.
in kind of like just American values. And when
Mhm.
we said we were
Mhm.
going to do something, we actually did it. And, the business is built on those values. The business is built on doing what we said we were going to do. And we were able to, catapult that into this, really extraordinary company that is doing some really innovative and creative things. And
That's great.
I'm really proud of that. I'm
And you
very
should
proud
be.
that we've
Yeah.
that we've been able to maintain those roots in the Midwest.
Well, I think the Midwestern ethic is we have ability without attitude, right? We've got this
Exactly.
generous spirit, this generous hospitality. Not to say that our colleagues on either coast don't, but I think there's a sensibility about Midwesterners that's really palpable.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
So, Nancy, you're really a champion for women, and I so admire you for that. And I want to talk a little bit today about the Free the Tampons national campaign. Tell us how that started and take us back to walking into the Apple corporate headquarters women's restroom in Cupertino, California. That was a pivotal moment for you, was it not?
Yeah, it sure was. It was January of 1982, and it was my first trip ever to California, my first
Oh,
trip to Apple and Apple's corporate headquarters. And I walked into the women's restroom, and there on the counter was a collection of tampons and pads for everyone to freely access. And it was the first time that I had ever seen that kind of offering, if you
yeah,
will,
yeah,
in a public restroom. And I thought, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. I mean, why doesn't every bathroom have this?
right.
Because we all have unexpected starts to our period, and
Mhm.
it's just kind of a fact of life. And I remember thinking that I always felt kind of comfortable at Apple's headquarters, because I knew that if I needed something, I wasn't going to be put in a position to
Yeah.
be, panicked, or,
Right.
at that moment when you discover that you need something and you don't have anything in your purse and the machine doesn't work, or there isn't a
Or there isn't a
machine,
machine, right?
or there's nobody in the restroom to ask about it. And so it was just a very trigger point moment for me, and just thinking about, why aren't all bathrooms created equal? Why
Hmm.
aren't there things in all the women's restrooms that help women take care of their everyday normal bodily functions? And so that began kind of since that time, a high level of awareness around that issue.
Well, and there's a foundation, right? So tell us a little bit
Yes.
about the national foundation, the Free the Tampons Foundation.
Yeah. I think that I am the mother of three children and three stepchildren, four of whom are girls. And
Hmm.
I have a pledge that I've made to all of them, that one of my goals before I die is to try to create an environments where there is equality in our restrooms, and there are these items freely accessible in all the public spaces. And so I've been working on this incrementally since that moment at Apple, back in 1982, first with our own business and with other businesses and with schools and restaurants and whatnot. But in the fall of 2013, I launched a national campaign designed to try to inspire people to follow along. And I set up a not-for-profit organization, a foundation, an FTT Foundation, which stands for Free the Tampons,
Hmm.
purposely being very provocative about it, and trying to create awareness around this issue. And we are, obviously, since I am the founder of a marketing company, I have the great fortune of tapping into some of the fabulous creative talent that we have here. In the social space and in the different digital channels, to kind of to share this message.
Yes.
And so I was just in a meeting yesterday, and we were talking about all the various content that we have either created or that we found that really support this notion, and how we're spreading the word. So it's very exciting.
It is. It is. I have to tell you, I had a magic moment a few weeks ago. I was at Procter and Gamble in neighboring Cincinnati, and lo and behold, their bathrooms were fully stocked for women. And I had a Nancy Kramer moment. I thought, this is great.
Well, I know that, P&G is a client of ours, and
Yes.
so of course they're the makers of Tampax, and
True,
so
true. So they've got a little home court
they
advantage there,
yeah, they do, and
but
they're,
they walk the walk.
there's the truth is there are a lot of corporate offices that stock their restrooms with these items, but we're looking for this to be in the public space, in
Yes,
the
yes.
airports and in
Right.
arenas and in schools. And
Exactly.
um, just the research that we conducted this past summer, we did a whole survey of women 18 plus, and got a little bit more in-depth insight into this issue. And 86% of women have been in a position where they have been caught without what they need.
Yeah.
And in 93% of those people said that there there was no machines, it was broken, it was empty, whatever. And they've been forced to improvise. So it's not the biggest issue in the world, but it's an important issue. And
It
at the
sure is.
moment you need it,
Yeah.
it
It's the
can
biggest
create
issue.
it's the biggest issue of that
Right,
moment when you
right.
need it. And
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
think that women have so many things that they're stressed out about, that the
Right.
last thing they need
This is
is
not
that one more thing.
exactly. I think it ties in beautifully with self-confidence too, right? Because when you know you're covered, literally, there's
Yes.
a level of self-confidence that you just don't have to worry about that, because that can really change one's mindset, right? If you're taken off guard. So I want to unpack that a little bit. When I was watching your TEDx Columbus talk, there was a wonderful 3-point slogan after your intro slide, and it said humanitarian, entrepreneur, and provocateur. And I love that. I love that. And you very clearly just said a second ago that you were provocative with the Free the Tampons campaign. Tell me more about that word and what that means to you, Nancy.
Well, it's interesting. We're finding that even the most progressive people have a very challenging time using the word tampon,
Yeah.
which I'm finding to be really interesting. And it's been a bit more of a barrier than we thought it was going to be. But there's so many other words that, in my opinion, are less. Risque, if you will, that
Right.
we're very comfortable including in our daily vocabulary. But until we kind of knock that down and not have people get sweaty palms when they use that word, that's part of the challenge that we have. But that the whole notion of the double meaning of free the tampons as well as free making them
Yeah.
free,
Yeah.
and of course it has applies with pads and and
Right.
anything.
Anything.
It's please give women the opportunity to have their bathroom equally stocked with what they need to take care of their everyday bodily functions. We had a very inspirational story that came across social media to us the other day about one of the states in India, which the government is starting to provide free pads in all the schools. This is certainly even a different and larger issue
Right.
in developing countries where young girls are just prohibited from actually going to school when they're menstruating. And so that kind of brings on a whole host of
Oh my
other
goodness.
issues. And
Yes.
so I was so delighted to read that here a state in India was so progressive that they were stocking every one of their public restrooms with pads so that women wouldn't be in this position. It's like, can't we do that in the United States?
Exactly. Exactly. Well done. Well, you're leading the charge, so this is a wonderful thing and great progress is being made. Bravo.
Well, and one of the things that I think we found very interesting is stories that we've heard. For example, the airport in Columbus has made these items freely accessible, but
Nice.
it was almost as much of a financial decision, because what they discovered is that the machines were breaking so frequently that when they dispatched a worker to fix the machine, they had to not only dispatch the worker, but they had to dispatch somebody to oversee the worker to make sure that the
Ah.
worker didn't steal the money that was in the machine. And so they just unilaterally decided that when you added up what it was costing from a maintenance standpoint to keep the machines up and running, that actually they could just give the items out free and they
Wow.
would come out ahead. Those are the kind of stories that we're aggregating and
Yes.
sharing in the
Yes.
public space. Because
That
I thought that was so
it
fascinating that,
is.
yeah, and something you would just never think of.
Right, because I'm sure the first question is, can we afford to do this? Well, actually, you can. It's a cost saving measure. Incredible.
And
Incredible.
I think that in our business and in the schools, I think that the cost is running just over $4 per female per year.
That's great. That's
So
great. That's doable. That's an
I think that's
investment. That's an
doable. I think
investment
it's
in our women.
doable. I think we
Wonderful.
can afford $4 a woman.
I know we can. So, Nancy, you're a very well respected leader on workplace issues, and you've also testified before Congress in support of the passage of the Employment Non Discrimination Act. And I know you have this concept that you celebrate of a collaborative culture where employees really feel valued. Tell me more about that because that's a beautiful thing. Frankly, we need more of you. Tell me about that passion of yours.
Well, I went to a very very diverse high school,
Hmm.
and I think that the being exposed to just so many different types of people at such a young age gave me an appreciation for different cultures and different traditions and different perspectives on the world, and it just kind of made me curious about people and why they're the way that they are. And fast forward in this environment that we have here at our business, which is highly creative and highly innovative, where literally the work that people are doing on a day in day out basis is their
Yeah.
ideas, their creativity. They are putting themselves big time into the work. Not
Hmm.
that we all don't, but I mean,
There's a
you know
different, yeah, the different
yeah, it's a
sensibility. Right.
yeah, and I just very quickly realized that in order for people to really not only thrive, but really have a deep sense of fulfillment. They needed to have an environment where they felt very safe to be themselves. And our business tends to attract people that tend to have a little bit of an eclectic personality. And so it was just this awareness that I had that if we can create an environment where people feel completely safe to be the same person on the outside that they are on the inside, which to me is like the ultimate fulfillment,
Yeah.
that everyone, all boats would rise, the
Mm-hmm.
associates, the clients, everyone. And so I feel very, very strongly about equal rights, whether it's women or the gay community,
Mm-hmm.
or whether it's the African American community, or name an ethnic group. And I am very passionate about this because I have this deep-seated belief that inside every single person there's a genius and there's
Yeah.
a spirit that is there to be nurtured. And I talked about this at our company annual meeting a couple of weeks ago. And, the ancient Romans believed this, the Native Americans believe this. There are many cultures that believe this.
Yes.
It's not just
Yes.
me, certainly, but that is something that has resonated with me. And so often that kind of negative voice in our head uh, prohibits us from really tapping into that genius. But yet, in order for us to derive deep fulfillment, we need to tap into that genius. And so, again, it all kind of weaves together into creating a work environment where there's a tremendous amount of safety to take risks, to be who you are, to not be afraid, and to have the courage and be brave on a daily basis to share your ideas, share your thoughts. It's the right thing for our clients. It's the right thing for our associates. And it's very much a part of the culture here at our business.
That's great. I can hear it in your voice. It's so exciting. So, Nancy, I want to ask you though, woman to woman, have there been challenges in your career that you believe stem from being a woman?
Oh, yes, absolutely, totally. I started this business with two male partners back in 1981 and then bought them out of the business in 1985.
Mm-hmm.
And when I bought them out of the business, the bank that we were doing business with at the time required my then husband to, or they said they were going to require my then husband to co-sign on a line of credit that we had that was, our receivables were the
Yep.
collateral for it. So there was nothing that was changing about the financial
Right.
picture of the business. And I told him that I just was going to find another bank because I thought that that was
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous.
Good for you.
You wouldn't have that kind of an issue
Right.
today, but back in the
Right.
80s, that was very much an issue. I mean, I traveled tremendously. I commuted from Columbus to California every other week for 15 years. And so, being a woman traveling solo for so many years, you get hit on, you get
Right.
propositioned, and, it's all kind of disgusting, but it
Mm-hmm.
happens. And
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, I chose just to ignore it and just I really had a desire for me to be acknowledged as a person and
Mm.
not really seen that I'm doing something because I was a woman or
Right.
I wasn't a woman or whatever. But as I've aged and had better awareness about the kind of the depth and breadth of the issue and women not being treated equally, I think that has given me a boost in being more outspoken about those kinds of things. But absolutely, it's been something that I either have experienced, whether it was a bank or being propositioned
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. But there's so many societal norms that are
Right.
placed on women as well, which I know Sheryl Sandberg talked about so eloquently in her book.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we all have to overcome because we place these unrealistic expectation on ourselves. Society does, and in turn
But
we
then
do
we
that
do
to
it as well.
ourselves.
Exactly. We can
Yeah,
be our own self-sabotagers. And that's why I
absolutely.
so appreciate that you invest in the talent of your company. In fact, there's even a quote, the investment made in your company's talent comes back tenfold. So Nancy, I so cherish your wisdom today, and I want you to distill it down to one piece of advice or wisdom that you would share with women, with men, with anybody in the professional world about how to play to their strengths and to be happy, and as you said, find that inner genius.
Well, I have to say, Caroline, that, when I haven't had the confidence to
Hmm.
trust my gut, when you really listen to your body and you really listen to your gut and your heart, and you listen to your heart and not your head, um, that's when I think the magic happens. When you have the courage to listen to your heart and not your head. And every time that I've had some major kind of challenges, I look back and I think I was listening to my head and not my heart.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to really listen to their heart. Listen, your heart, your gut, however you want to characterize it. I think it's really more heart than gut, but they're kind of in close proximity. So
They are,
I'm
but
sure they're very connected.
they are, but you know what I love? You're saying listen. And I think so often we spend so much time forging forward, right? And the monkey chatter, as I call it, clouds our judgment, and we need to sit back and listen. And I so appreciate hearing you say that. Any other bits that you'd like to share with our listening audience, Nancy? I could chat with you all day, but I respect that you're a busy woman.
I think that probably the only other thing that I have discovered the hard way is that it's super important for all of us, but I think especially women, to take care of themselves.
Yes.
And the self care issue. I have a very sacred morning routine that has, exercise or aerobic
Nice.
exercises or weight or yoga, meditation. I'm trying to incorporate daily meditation into my routine. I was charging hard for a long time and found myself hitting a brick wall and several years ago. And I've had to learn that it's so important to take care of myself first and
Right.
foremost. I can't be the best mom. I can't be the best leader unless I'm taking care of myself first and foremost. And so I think that's probably a message that we all cannot hear too
Enough.
frequently.
I
Yeah,
agree. I agree.
exactly.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
we only get one shot at taking good care of ourselves. So I really am so pleased that you said that. I'm starting to meditate. It's a slow process and I'm enjoying it so much. I just find that such a special time of day for me, and it's really an investment in my health and in my wellness. So good to hear that you're enjoying that too.
Absolutely.
Nancy Kramer, founder of Resource, what a joy to have you on today. I want to thank our listeners for tuning into Your Working Life. My goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. And I believe that true career satisfaction is possible. And it's time to embrace what you love so you can do more of it. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.